Their backing for the establishment of state police condemned the agitation for the creation of Yoruba Nation.
In our business news tonight, Federation Accounts Allocation Committee shares 1.14 trillion naira to the 3 tiers of government as revenue for the month of May.
On sports news tonight, the Cheetahs of Benin Republic stand the Super Eagles of Nigeria 2-1 in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire to leave the 3-time African champions 2026 World Cup qualification hopes on the line.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, international human rights group Amnesty International alleges abandonment of girls and young women who escaped Boko Haram captivity in the northeast region.
And in international news from London, there's widespread shock in European politics as French President Emmanuel Macron has called snap elections in the wake of a big victory for his rival Marine Le Pen's national rally.
We begin from the nation's capital, where the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, is promising that the report of the tripartite committee on the new minimum wage will be presented to the President for appropriate action. Mr. Akume said this when he received the committee's report in Abuja today. A statement from the office of the SGF explains that the formal presentation of the report will be made to President Bola Tinubu when the leadership of the organized labor, as well as representatives of government and organized private sector, return to the country. They are said to be currently in Geneva, Switzerland, for the ongoing International Labor Organization Conference. The 37-member committee was inaugurated on January the 30th, 2024 by President Bola Tinubu in accordance with the Minimum Wage Act of 2020 and was tasked with reviewing the existing minimum wage as well as advising on an appropriate increase. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, says it has not accepted 62,000 naira as the minimum wage, as the body is negotiating an amount that is beneficial to Nigerians. This is coming from the Assistant Secretary General of the NLC, Mr. Chris Onyeka, who was a guest on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief. Mr. Onyeka explains that the window for negotiations will close at midnight Tuesday, and the next line of action will be dictated by the organs of the NLC.
We have never considered accepting 62,000 naira or any other wage that is below what we know is able to take Nigerian workers home. We will not negotiate a starvation wage, neither would we negotiate a reduction in the wages of Nigerian workers. We have never contemplated 100,000, talk less of 62,000. We have never contemplated that. We are still at 250,000. That is where we are. And that is what we consider enough concession to the government and the other social partners in this particular situation. The truth is that the governors can pay 250,000 naira minimum wage without any problem if they stop collecting their security votes, which they are not using for anything. For example, if they stop paying their past governors and deputy governors pension while they sit at National Assembly, they will have more money to pay. If they reduce the cost of governance in their respective states, they will be able to pay. The federal government, including the National Assembly, are the ones who have the call. It's their call now. It is not our call. Our demand is there for them to look at and send a federal executive bill, an executive bill to the National Assembly. And now for the National Assembly to look at what we have demanded, the various facets of the law, and then come up with a National Minimum Wage Act that meets our demand. If that does not meet our demand, we have given the federal government a 1 week notice to look at the issues. And that 1 week expires tomorrow. If after tomorrow we have not seen any tangible response from the federal government, the organs of the organized labor will meet. The relevant organs will meet to decide on what next.
Over now to River State, where the State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has affirmed Martin Zamewole and 26 other members of the River State House of Assembly as members of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. The judgment given by Justice Okokbele Bassam of the State High Court Division held that the claimant Hyacinth Amadi, Tonye Datoye and 2 others had breathed the court to declare their seats vacant, having defected from the PDP to the APC. In his judgment, however, Justice Bassam rules that the claimants failed to produce any concrete evidence proving the defendant had actually defected to the APC. He further held that verbal comments, television ceremonies, and public declarations do not constitute proof of party membership, and that a failure of the claimants to produce membership cards, defection letters, and party register shows that they are still members of the PDP.
The case was about challenging the seat of the members of the State House of Assembly, led by the Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Martins Chike Amehule. The claimant has sought the relief of the court to declare their seats vacant. And of course, with what happened in court today, it's quite obvious they are unable to prove that indeed they have defected from PDP and has joined the APC. It's an issue of hard facts and of course the law. You don't just imagine defection and assume that it has occurred. It's something that must be predicated in law, and of course you must be seen to have proved that. I'm sure that some of you or most of you are in court. The court clearly stated that Right Honorable Martins Chike Amehule remains the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, as well as other members are quiet and remain members of the State House of Assembly, and their laws, the laws that are passed are legitimate, and the state government is bound to obey the laws passed by these honorable members.
Meanwhile, the River State Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General, Dagogo Iboroma, has refuted claims that a High Court in Port Harcourt affirmed Martins Amewole and 26 others as members of the River State House of Assembly and the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. At the press briefing in Port Harcourt, the senior advocate of Nigeria clarified that the suit did not seek to declare their seats vacant. He explained that the case was dismissed due to lack of locus standi and jurisdiction, as well as abuse of court process, which robbed the trial court of the jurisdiction to adjudicate the matter.
There is the misleading news circulating in social media, print and electronic media, that Martins Amewole and 26 others are members of the People's Democratic Party and the River State House of Assembly. As you all know, Martins Amewole and 26 others defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress on the 11th day of December 2023, and stated that much in affidavit evidence deposed to by Martins Amewole for himself and on behalf of 26 others in suit number FHC ABJ 1681 CS of the year 2023 before Honorable Justice Donatus Okorowo of the Federal High Court Abuja Division. That suit is still pending in court. By section 2723 of the Constitution of Federal Government as amended, it is only the Federal High Court that can determine whether Martins Amewole and 26 others are still members of the People's Democratic Party and also members of the River State House of Assembly.
Serious security matters in Katsina State, where at least 26 people have been killed and 2 others wounded in fresh attacks by bandits on Gidan Tofa and Dan Nakwabo communities in Kankara local government area of the state. The bandits, in their numbers and armed with weapons, were said to have attacked the 2 villages yesterday, Sunday, June the 9th this year. During the attacks that lasted for hours, the bandits were said to have shot and killed 20 people, injured 2 others, and then ambushed an armored personnel carrier attached to the police patrol team responding to the distress call, killing 4 police officers and 2 members of the Katsina State Community Watch Corps. Now, the spokesman of the Katsina State Police Command, ASP Abubakar Sadiq, explained in a statement today that the command is working with all relevant stakeholders in the state to beef up security in those areas. Here in Lagos, governors of southwest states, so governors of states in the southwest zone, today reaffirmed their support for the establishment of the state police in the country, just as they condemned the agitation for the creation of Yoruba Nation. This was part of the resolutions they reached at their meeting at the Lagos House Alausa in Ikeja, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State was elected chairman of the forum. Presenting the communique on behalf of the forum, Governor Sanwo-Olu also expressed the forum's support for the ongoing negotiation for the new minimum wage.
Lagos House Alausa, Ikeja, is the venue for the Southwest Governors meeting. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu receives his counterparts from Ogun, Governor Dapo Abiodun, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo, Ademola Adeleke of Osun, Abiodun Oyebanji of Ekiti, and Lucky Ayedatiwa of Ondo State. They're all here to discuss issues of concern to the region. They step in for a closed-door meeting, which lasts over 4 hours, after which the Lagos State Governor reads the communique of the Southwest Governors Forum, highlighting their stand on national minimum wage and his emergence as the new chairman of the forum.
The forum unanimously nominated and adopted the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as its chairman. On minimum wage, the forum supports the efforts of the federal government, the Nigerian Governors Forum, and the organized private sector on their ongoing conversations with the Nigerian Labour Union. The forum believes that the outcome will reflect a true fiscal federalism that we all preach. The forum also encourages the federal government's effort on mineral resource exploitation. There should be a further collaboration between the federal government and states, especially in the areas of granting of leases to various investors.
For the governors, the issue of hike in food prices and insecurity should be the least of people's worry. The governors reaffirmed their stance on state police.
The forum condemns in strong terms the group of people agitating for the Yoruba nation. On security, the forum commends the relative peace we currently enjoy within our southwest region and notes the collaborative efforts of all security agencies, including Amotekun Corps, and we reaffirm our support for the creation of state police. On food security, the forum acknowledges the efforts of the federal government and decides that our various Honorable Commissioner for Agric at all of our states should begin to meet and set up a working template which will encourage collaboration based on each state's comparative advantage.
The Southwest Governors Forum commends the House of Representatives for its efforts at passing the Southwest Development Bill and looks forward to its speedy passage by the Senate for the benefit of the region.
In part two, after the break, the President appoints retired Deputy Inspector General Hashim Argungu as Police Service Commission Chairman, plus a group of lawmakers in the House of Representatives proposes major amendments to the Constitution for better governance, recommends 6-year single tenure for presidents and governors. Please stay with us.
Sweetheart, no matter what you do, we show you love. So you can show more love to everyone.
Mom, how do you show more love to everyone? I will show you love.
Show some more love today with 4 more packs of your favorite Indomie noodles in Indomitable and Super Pack cartons. Also, each Indomitable pack is now 200 Naira, while Super Pack is now 350 Naira. So hurry now. Offer valid till stock lasts.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, enriched with 95% pure vitamin C and pulp extract. For visibly radiant and even-toned skin in just 2 weeks. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, for your shade of beautiful.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. No cubes. That's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic, and enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
It's hot. Have you seen the remote?
No, I haven't seen it.
How did you do that?
Hey sis, can I please borrow your wig? No, but I can share my data with you.
Honey, come on, give me some ice cream now.
No, Mom, but I can share some of my data with you.
Can you pass the toilet, please?
No, but I can share my data with you.
Oh yeah, can I use your phone charger?
No, Dad, but I can share my data with you.
Is it because Glo gives you data bonus? That is why you have been shouting. I can share my data with you.
With Glo Data Sharing, you can share your data effortlessly with friends and loved ones today. Dial *312#.
Power your relentless ambition with ultra-high-speed data.
Glo Unlimited.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, receives report of the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage, says document will be presented to the President for appropriate action. Another twist in the Rivers political crisis as court affirms Martin Zamewule and 26 of his colleagues as PDP members and lawmakers of the State Assembly. State Attorney General refutes claim, insists they remain APC members. Governors of Southwest states under the aegis of Southwest Governors Forum reaffirmed their backing for the establishment of state police, condemned the agitation for the creation of Yoruba Nation. And widespread shock greets French President Emmanuel Macron. Call for snap elections in the wake of a big victory for his rival Marine Le Pen's national rally. In other stories, the president has appointed retired Deputy Inspector General Hashimu Argungu as the chairman of the Police Service Commission. In a statement, the special advisor to the president on media, Ajuri Ngalale, explained that the president has also approved the appointment of Chief Onyemuche Namani as Secretary and Deputy Inspector General Taiwo Lakana retired as members of the commission. The appointments are subject to confirmation by the Senate, even as other members of the PSC are to be appointed in due course. The president also approved the appointment of Mr. Mohammed Shaidu as the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, the NPTF, with immediate effect. A group of lawmakers in the House of Representatives is proposing some amendments to the Constitution, which they believe will improve governance in the country. The group led by Honorable Ikenga Ugochinyere is proposing a 6-year single tenure for the president and governors, as well as create the office of 2 vice presidents from the southern and northern parts of Nigeria. The group is also proposing an amendment to the Electoral Act to ensure that all are held on the same day.
Is to ensure that when we say it's 6 years single term for a particular zone, it remains 6 years and it can never change. And that is why the bill is now proposing for the position of 2 vice presidents. One will be a vice president for succession, which will come from the same zone with the president, and the other one will be vice president administration from the other part of the country. And what that means is that in the event of death of the president or impeachment of the president, the second vice president's succession assumes office immediately and completes the remainder of that time and cannot seek any election. And also, in order not to incur extra costs on the country, this vice president will now have ministerial status, being the only vice president, being the minister, only minister from that state. And also that flows into the Electoral Act, where we're also seeking for an amendment to provide that elections to the offices of the president, state governors, National Assembly, state houses of assembly, and FCT area council shall be conducted simultaneously on the same date, which is to be determined by INEC in consultation with the National Assembly. The third one is a bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act to provide for the hearing and determination of all election petitions by the respective election petition tribunal and the appellate courts in accordance with specified timelines before the swearing in of successful candidates at election.
Ahead of the off-cycle governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states this year, the electoral umpire, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is promising to severely sanction any personnel who engages in unethical practices. A National Commissioner, Professor Abdullahi Zuru, made this known at the annual lecture of the Electoral Institute in Abuja, where he represented the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. So let's head to the nation's capital now, where Markwe Ogun Yusuf is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Great to see you again, Markwe. Over to you.
Indeed, good to see you too, Ayo. But we're starting off with a very grave allegation here, as the international human rights organization Amnesty International says that girls and young women who escaped Boko Haram captivity in Nigeria's northeast region have been abandoned by the relevant authorities. A report from the group, which was launched today in Abuja, also indicates that the young women faced other abuses. Based on years of documentation and research, the report highlights the need for specialist reintegration support for the affected girls. Our correspondent Benny Ark reports.
Human rights advocates, non-governmental organizations have gathered for the presentation of the latest report of the Amnesty International. According to the Human Rights Organization, the report is based on 126 interviews, including 82 survivors, which was conducted in person in northeast Nigeria and remotely between 2019 and 2024. The report highlights the gravity of the situation.
Girls and young women who escaped Boko Haram captivity in the northeast faced further suffering, including sometimes unlawful detention. In addition to this, they are not receiving adequate support as they attempt to rebuild their lives. Their unique experiences need special attention that is not there yet.
Most of these girls and young women were interviewed during 2 research trips to Maiduguri in 2023. Others were interviewed during 2 research trips, one in late 2019, one in early 2020. To both Borno and Adamawa states. The Nigerian military has referred to our sources as intrinsically unreliable. As you can tell, our sources were primarily survivors. They speak from their own experiences and they are experts on what they went through. Calling them intrinsically unreliable shows a lack of respect that the Nigerian military seems to have for these Boko Haram survivors.
The activists consider the situation a shameful business and call for action to protect the victims.
Civil society can do is exactly to bring credible research evidence to show gaps, to show challenges, and recommend to the policymakers and legislators so that they can take necessary action, and also advise the security on how best they can also carry out their work with human rights mindset.
Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters maintains that the Armed Forces has zero tolerance for indiscipline and any form of improper conduct during operations across the country. A statement from the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, states that there are standing court-martials to treat any form of misbehavior by erring personnel, especially those that portray the military negatively to the general populace. Benny Ock, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with human rights now, civil society organizations have been urged to explore non-legal remedies in accessing recourse for human rights violations in Nigeria. The Executive Director of Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clement Nwakwo, who said this at a dialogue session with civil society organizations on human rights abuses in the country, notes that the struggle for human rights is important in entrenching democracy.
Human rights is still a challenge for the country. We also know that people are continually facing human rights abuse in the country. We're all witnesses, at least everybody in this room is of age, to be witnesses to what happened with the NSAS protest of 2020. And we have several instances today where people are being detained without being tried. We have several instances today where people are not getting fair trial in the courts. We all worry about the independence of our courts and the independence of the judiciary. It is becoming quite worrying that when you have a case in courts, you're not quite sure the factors that will limit your access to justice in the courts. It's important for us to ask ourselves, how can we, using the agencies that we represent, the NGOs that we represent, how can we use them to advance the cause of human rights in the country? How can we use our agencies and organizations to better conditions of living in the country? Agencies of government even claim that they have units within them to address complaints. So it's for us to identify these agencies and know that beyond the courts, and it's important to get the courts on board as well, but beyond the courts, there are several recourse mechanisms that exist that could help us to address the problem of human rights violation in a democracy.
We're off to the courts now, where a former director of procurement at the Federal Ministry of Aviation, Mr. Azubike Okorie, has given his testimony on the 1.4 billion naira apron extension contract at the Katsina Airport. He told the Federal Capital Territory High Court here in Abuja that contractors, including Al Burak, were absent during a monitoring visit to the airport. Mr. Okorie testified as a subpoena witness of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in the case involving former Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika, his daughter, son-in-law, and Al Burak Investment Limited. According to him, the contract remained unexecuted when he left the civil service in May 2023, adding that 30% mobilization fee was paid to the disputed company, but he could not confirm full payment. The EFCC had accused Mr. Sirika of contract fraud, alleging favoritism towards companies linked to his family in awarding contracts for the Nigerian Air Project and Katsina Airport apron extension. Justice Sylvanus Orji adjourned the case to June the 11th this year. And on to Nigerians making great strides abroad. A member of the Nigerian delegation at the United Nations, Ezekwesili David Anyebu, has been elected by acclamation vice chair of the 79th session of the United Nations Second Committee Bureau. The last time a Nigerian was elected as one of the principal officers of a UN annual session was in 2019, when Ambassador Tijani Mohamed Bande was elected as the president of the 74th session of the UN General Assembly. Speaking exclusively with my colleague Amarachi Ubani on our Foreign Affairs program, Diplomatic Channel, Mr. Anyegbu explained how his new role opens up more opportunities for Nigeria.
To the country of Nigeria, of course, at the moment, this year is a very critical year in terms of turbocharging the implementation of the SDGs. So it certainly means a lot when just opposed with the fact that Nigeria is also leading on various initiatives in the 2C. Of course, we are pushing for the adoption of the UN Framework Convention on tax cooperation, international tax cooperation, and this of course is in tandem with the renewed hope initiative of Mr. President and the 4D foreign policy as articulated by the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. And of course, Mr. President, upon assumption of office, did sign 4 executive orders on to curb multiple taxation and to boost ease of doing business in Nigeria. And he also established the Presidential Task Force on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform. And here at the UN, against the backdrop of the UN resolution introduced by Nigeria through the African group, we now have an ad hoc committee on terms of reference for the UN Framework Convention on Tax. And they should come up with an outcome document by August. So certainly my election will certainly help Nigeria, enable Nigeria to consolidate and deepen various multilateral economic initiatives at the UN.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Federation Accounts Allocation Committee shares 1.14 trillion naira to the 3 tiers of government as revenue for the month of May. That's some business news. To join us again.
Susie likes to live life on her own terms. And with her Visa prepaid card from First Bank, she has no worries shopping abroad or paying locally as her card comes in USD or Naira variant. And she enjoys the liberty of funding her card as she desires. Susie got her Visa prepaid card from the First Bank branch nearest to her. It's valid for 3 years and can be personalized to suit her lifestyle. First Bank Visa prepaid card can be used on any payment channel, ATM, POS, and web. And if you're a corporate business organization, the card can be used as your budget card to sort out business expenses. In addition, the card can be co-branded to showcase your business. So, get a First Bank Visa prepaid card from any First Bank branch and enjoy a budget card that suits you. You first. First Bank.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of a family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Shout my tea fresh now, but you know, I beg no be so. Before I go talk, say our smell no reach. We cannot think and try so. We know they here to the point una with our small finger. We show una solution instead. Ever heard of Colgate, the #1 oral care brand in the world? On a slide, go find like him as it's supposed to be. You can see why we are the coolest around. For zero cavity and long-lasting fresh breath. Mom, it's your time to brush. Mama and Papa buy am, use am and shine your smile. No more cover mouth. Because we Colgate,
The kidnapped parish priest of St. Thomas Catholic Church, Zamandabo community in Zangon Kataf, local government area of Kaduna State, Reverend Father Gabriel Uke, has finally regained his freedom. Reverend Father Uke was abducted from the rectory of St. Thomas Parish, Zamandabo, Zangon Kataf, where he shepherds on Sunday, June the 9th this year. However, the Director General of Communications, Cavengers and Catholic Diocese, Reverend Father Gabriel Okafo, confirmed that the kidnapped priest was released at about 9 p.m. today. A President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has pledged the commitment of the lawmakers to protect Nigerian businesses that create jobs and conserve foreign exchange. His words were part of outcomes from the visit of the Senate leadership to the Dangote refinery in Lagos, which is expected to begin supply of premium motor spirit from the month of July. The legislators who appeared stunned at the progress made at the complex say it's rather shameful that what Nigeria went through, the managers of the country's refineries could not achieve in over 2 decades, have been done by one entrepreneur.
You might have been wondering what has happened to all the buzz about Dangote refinery in the outskirts of Lagos. Well, those contemplations is prompting this curious visit by the leadership of the Nigerian Senate, led by the President, Godswill Akpabio. Today's government is poaching a 1 trillion economy. Petrol products are 100% imported and priced. So on his first visit, so much must be derived. The president of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, leads the delegation on a tour of this massive complex measuring 6,600 acres, or the equivalent of 7 times the size of Victoria Island, the home to the world's largest single-train refinery, capable of processing 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day, including large variety of African crude, some of the Middle Eastern crude, the U.S. light oil, and others.
The things that came in container, about 152,000 containers.
Across the complex is the bigger seaport, which initially wasn't a part of the budget, but had to be constructed as no Nigerian port could berth some of the equipment used during the construction phase. Then to the 30 kilometers underwater pipeline from the sea into the refinery for crude and for export of finished products. Conceived in 2017, Dangote tells his guests that during the construction stage, it supported over 150,000 jobs, mostly Nigerians. All Nigerian products can be met, and how will be exported. Another first you will find anywhere in the world are the equipment installed in this laboratory for testing and other purposes. It also has a world-class control room. For him, imagine a Nigeria where all his petroleum products are produced in country. Imagine the fact that just 3 of his companies paid a total of 788.9 billion naira as tax and 276 billion in VAT in 3 years. A possibility where 70,000 direct and indirect jobs on account of the cement factory alone has been created, and what this complex would do when fully operational and serving.
So when we talk about economic development, social economic development, this is what you see.
After 8+ hours of engagement, in this presentation room, Aliko Dangote makes these critical facts passionate appeal to the legislators.
I urge you to please consider this refinery as our national asset, given the envisaged long multiplier effect on the economy. Indigenous investment of such magnitude ought to be protected and backed by laws that should prevent disruptions in its activities.
It's a call and response situation, and looks like we have a deal.
We will, as human beings, go back and do all our best to protect this facility. We will do so. If we can go ahead to give incentives to people who acquire oil well, even when they were producing assets, we now give them a tax waiver. So why can't we give you tax waivers in the things we have seen today?
Still on his deal commitments, PMS or petrol will be available from the refinery to Nigerians from next month, and the refinery will also be listed on the Nigerian exchange later this year.
I, as the chairman of downstream committee in the National Assembly, is to make laws that will help to advance the cost of this investment. At the same time, give Nigeria a better deal.
You hear from the Nigerian Senate.
The anticipation is on from both parties. Nigeria will definitely be the biggest winners if all promises from here are kept. Olu Phillips, Channel Selection News.
Totally friendly. We'll answer your question.
In other company news, the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, has assured the management of Coleman Wires and Cables Limited of the federal government's patronage in its quest to improve the power sector in Nigeria. The minister made this promise when he toured the factories of the leading manufacturer of wires and cables in the Arepo and Shagam areas of Ogun State. On the spot, the managing director of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Onofowokon, promised that the company will work towards increasing local content in order to create more jobs and support the federal government's efforts in making power available to Nigerians.
Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu arrives at the headquarters of Coleman Wires and Cables Limited in Arepo and is received by the management of the company. During a brief interaction, the managing director of the company, Mr. George Onofowokon, appreciates the minister for the visit as he points out the importance of growing local industries.
That is what we want the minister to see on a tour. That is what we want him to drive to government. We need to now be deliberate to create deliberate push for industries to grow within our system.
The minister returns the compliment and applauds Coleman Wires and Cables for supporting the power sector in Nigeria.
Let me first appreciate you, appreciate the chairman, appreciate the executive management for investing in a facility like this to support the power sector in Nigeria.
Next, the management of Coleman Wires and Cables brings the minister up to speed on what the company is doing in the area of developing more local content.
We've created interest and we've been able to create other people to do the jobs that those people that have left are able to do now.
Every cable that you need on transmission or distribution or generation can be done in country. It is a conscious decision by us and as a country to push more businesses on local content.
Supporting the federal government's efforts in sustaining the power sector.
What we are doing is quite in line with the objectives of federal government to create more employment and to also be able to sustain our power sector.
After the interactions, the minister's entourage and the team from Coleman Wires and Cables moved to Arepo and Shagamu areas of Ogun State for a facility tour of the company's world-class equipment. After the tour, the minister makes a commitment to Coleman Wires and Cables.
I'm assuring them of government patronage, and I'm also convinced that the quality of their product here is quite optimal in terms of the certification, which I have seen.
With this first-of-its-kind visit to Coleman Wires and Cables by the Minister of Power, management looks forward to a better collaboration with the federal government as it remains committed to manufacturing consistent quality wires and cables that meets customers' expectations.
Farmers across the southwest region of Nigeria may now heave a sigh of relief as improved yield and bumper harvest can now be achieved with effective weed control. This new development is made possible with the introduction of a herbicide, Dragon Super, put together with the latest technology by Wakot Agrochemical and Fertilizer Limited, a member of the TGI Group. Wakot Agrochemical and Fertilizer Limited says the new advanced herbicide launched in the same local government area of Oyo State will help farmers improve on crop yield per hectare, thereby boosting food security.
By 2050, Nigeria would have an estimated population of 400 million. As a result, experts in agribusiness initiatives have repeatedly argued that things must be done differently to ensure commensurate crop yield to feed the nation. One of the major impediments to a good and healthy yield is poor weed control. And eliminating this challenge has been the preoccupation of Wakat Agrochemical Limited. And years of research has produced a new farmer and environment-friendly herbicide known as Dragon Super. About 5,000 farmers from up to 30 communities in Ishayin, Aduawaye, Hodogun and environs are here in Ishayin local government area, the gateway to the Okeogun axis of the state. Residents here are predominantly farmers, and this informs the choice of the town for this crucial launch. The herbicide, Dragon Super, is made with latest technology to redefine weed management for farmers, as it provides a practical and effective solution to the challenges faced by farmers across the country, from the menace of weed infestation on farm crops.
This technology of Dragon Super, it is a wonderful technology in the world. And now, after America and Germany, we brought in Nigeria. It has been tested almost 2,000 experiments in Nigeria, and then we launched. It is very, very safe for the environment, very, very safe for the soil. And after testing 2,000 places in across country, we launched this product.
Wakat is the leading food and agro-allied company invested in the value chain of various crops across Nigeria. The company describes the herbicide Dragon Super as offering double effectiveness in weed control with the application of just half a dose.
This Dragon has been formulated to combat herbs for the farmers. That is why we are here to launch and to reach out to the society here.
So it's actually a good for the overall country. It will make the productivity of the farmers improve. It will improve their earning. All those things are there.
Some of the distributors of Dragon Super herbicide relay their experience as they market this revolutionary product.
The people are choosing Dragon Super as number one to be used in their farms.
Dragon Super was first launched in 2023 with the inaugural event held in Abuja, marking the beginning of a new era in weed management for Nigerian farmers. The message from the manufacturer, Wakat, is clear: unleash the power of Dragon Super and say goodbye to stubborn weed and ultimately embrace a new phase of flourishing crops.
Let's get some more business now with Will Ibo. Will.
Banking so easy. 894 hash now to experience it. You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Now, the three tiers of governments have received a total sum of 1.43 trillion naira from the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, as revenue distribution for the month of May. According to a statement released by the FAC, the amount is lower when compared to the 1.2 trillion naira total allocation shared in April. A brief breakdown of the revenue distribution shows that the federal government received 365.81 billion naira, state governments got a higher sum of 388.42 billion naira, local government councils received about 282 billion naira, while 106.5 billion naira was shared as 13% of mineral derivation revenue to relevant states. Meanwhile, the FAC says 1.22 trillion naira was received as gross statutory revenue for May, while the balance in the excess crude accounts was unchanged at $473,754. And the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Mr. Ali Sabi, says the federal government is looking at growing the potential of the livestock sector to over $11 billion annually. The minister was speaking at a regional meeting on how to reduce diseases associated with ruminant animals, explains that the sector plays a significant role in job creation and income generation for women and youth. Now we head now to the domestic equities market, where we resumed the second trading week in June with bullish sentiments. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the second trading week of June. Wow. June is flying really, really fast. But we have a 0.58% gain today, 99,000, still below that 100,000 psychological level. Market cap 56.45 trillion. Activity was quite strong today with volume up 148% and value, that's up by 83% compared to the last trading session on Friday, 13.49 billion. That's value of what was traded today with deals 8,656. to sectoral performance now. We see the oil and gas counter hit a 52-week high today at 1,332 points, with the likes of Total Energies adding to the share price 9.98%. And we see a big move there from oil and gas counter, 3.13%. The bank is not left out, 2.71%. So the first trading day this week kicks off in the green, but I'm sure investors are still watching minimum wage negotiations at this time, as industrial action might have a negative impact on investor sentiment. But today, the bulls have it.
Thank you, Laddie. We'll keep track of that development and its impact on the stock markets. But let's see the snapshot of closing numbers for other major equities. And that's it on business. It's back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Will. The Malawi presidency says an aircraft carrying Vice President Solos Chilima and 9 others has gone missing. A statement from the office says the Malawi Defense Force aircraft went off the radar after it left the capital, Lilongwe. The president has ordered a search and rescue operation after aviation officials were unable to contact the aircraft. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. There's widespread shock around European politics as French President Emmanuel Macron has called a snap election in the wake of a big victory for his rival Marine Le Pen's national rally. The far-right party is on course to win 32% of the vote in the European parliamentary elections, according to exit polls, more than twice that of the president's Renaissance Party.
Le choix de notre avenir parlementaire par le vote.
Announcing the dissolution of Parliament, he said the 2 rounds of voting would take place on the 30th of June and the 7th of July, a few weeks before the Paris Olympics. Mr. Macron made the dramatic and surprise decision in a televised address from the Élysée Palace, an hour after voting closed and exit polls had been declared in France's EU elections. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says an Israeli raid on a refugee camp which led to the rescue of 4 hostages killed 274 people, including children and other civilians. Israel's forces, backed by airstrikes, fought intense gun battles with Hamas in and around the Nuseirat refugee camp, freeing the captives. Noah Argamani, Almong Meir Jan, Andrei Kozlov and Shlomi Ziv, who were abducted from the Nova Music Festival on the 7th of October, have been returned to Israel. The Israeli military has estimated that fewer than 100 people died in the operation, but the latest figures from the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza would, if confirmed, make it one of the deadliest days of the conflict so far. Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz has quit the emergency government in a sign of deepening divisions over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's post-conflict plans for Gaza. Speaking during a news conference in Tel Aviv on Sunday, where he announced his resignation, Mr. Gantz said the decision was made with a heavy heart. Considered by some to be a potential challenger for power in Israel, Mr. Gantz called on Mr. Netanyahu to set a date for elections. Mr. Netanyahu responded with a post on X, saying, "Benny, this is not the time to quit the campaign, this is the time to join forces." Antony Blinken will return to Israel and the wider Middle East region for the 8th time since the latest hostilities broke out following Hamas's 7th of October attacks. The US Secretary of State will be in Egypt and Israel and has 2 main goals: to increase pressure on the warring parties to come to a ceasefire deal and to ensure that the war does not spread further in the region, particularly in Lebanon. He'll meet with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Cairo before heading to Israel, where he'll hold discussions with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Police officials say at least 10 people have died and 33 have been injured after suspected militants fired on a bus carrying Hindu pilgrims in the Indian Federal Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The driver lost control, causing the bus to plunge into a gorge in Raisi district of Jammu. While rescue operations have concluded, a search operation by the Indian Army and police is underway to track down the attackers. Officials said Prime Minister Narendra Modi had taken stock of the situation and asked for the best medical care to be provided to the injured. Doctors at one of the last functioning hospitals in the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher say they have been forced to close down the facility after it was attacked. The hospital 'Rodeo bull jumped over an arena fence in Oregon in the United States has been caught on camera. Three people were injured in the international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The Super Eagles of Nigeria this evening suffered a disappointing 1-2 defeat to the Cheetahs of Benin Republic in matchday 4 duel of the 2026 World Cup qualifying series. This will be the first time ever the three-time African champions will be featuring in a World Cup qualifying without a win in 4 games. The Super Eagles have played 4 matches without a win. It is the first time ever that this has happened in 64 years of featuring in World Cup qualifying. It's a big win for Benin Republic, who are temporarily the table toppers with 7 points, while Nigeria, with a pitiable 3, are languishing 5th in a 6-team group. Meanwhile, head coach Finidi George is not giving up just yet with 6 games left to play in Group C. In his post-match reaction, he says the players must return to winning ways when the qualifying series return in March next year. The Three Lions have arrived at their team base in Blankenheim, Germany, ahead of the Euro 2024, which begins on Friday. England are among the favourites to win the European Championship 3 years after falling agonizingly short in the final of the last edition of the tournament at Wembley. England, who kick off their Euro 2024 campaign against Serbia on Sunday, suffered a shocking 1-0 defeat to Iceland in their final friendly last week. That's it, and sport is back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Chris. We sincerely would like to apologize for the technical glitches in Around the World in 5. And the main news again. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, today received the report of the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage and said the document will be presented to the President for appropriate action. Dangote has already launched the refinery, the Dangote refinery, where the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has indeed pledged the commitment of the lawmakers to protect Nigerian businesses that create jobs and conserve a foreign exchange. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde. From all of us here, it's good night and please stay safe.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Entertainment News on Channels Television, your one-stop shop for all things fashion, music and lifestyle. When it comes to showbiz, you know we always have you covered. I am Ewaoluwa Ogumborede. Today on Entertainment News, singer Isaac Gerald quits Guinness World Record quest few hours to setting a new singing record.